Right, episode 37 of the Back of the Class podcast. I'm Glenn Anderson.
I'm Ben Hanlon.
And before we start off this week's episode, I'd like to say a huge thank you to our sponsors, the Bar Griffin Inn, the Pitside Pizza and Grill, the Members Foods Credit Union, and VAR Electrical and Coco's Cakes. And this week we're joined by
Coach Owen Roddy.
Thanks a lot for coming in.
I'm happy to get on, guys. I know we've been trying to get on. I've been trying to get down to you for the fucking past couple of months. Sorry for ghosting. But I've just been flat out. But I'm delighted to see what you're doing. Two young kids using your initiative and setting up a podcast. I'm sure you're doing well with it, and hopefully it builds. So I'm happy to get on and have a chat with you.
Thanks a lot. How are you?
Good, yeah, good. Busy, but that's a good complaint. I could be sitting at home doing nothing. So I'm just happy that I'm doing what I like and I'm busy with it. So.
You're on a high after the weekend, after Max?
Definitely on a high. Yeah, it was a good weekend. To have Max Lally get the win in Cage Warriors. It's been a long time since I've had a lad on Cage Warriors. I think the last one was probably about 8 years ago, and then obviously there was a little bit of a fall in it with SBGs and Cage Warriors, and we weren't invited on. So, but all things are mended now. So it was great to see. Not only for Max done phenomenal, and I'm delighted for Max. He deserves it, and he got to showcase his skill on that high level where he belongs. But there was 17 Irish kids on it, young Irish kids coming up, and it's like a resurgence of Irish MMA. Yeah, it's great to see. It reminds me of the old Helix days when Conor was going in doing his things. Yeah. It's like I'm sure we're going to see a lot of the guys that have fought on that show last weekend in the UFC in the near future.
Yeah. We actually have Max on in 2 weeks' time now.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
Is he going to speak Osquelga?
I hope not. We can't speak.
That's all I can say. Yeah. But you know what? I actually love the fact that he speaks a lot of Irish now in his interviews and when he's talking on social media, and I think it's great. It's great because for us, even as ourselves, I'm sure Irish wasn't the most popular subject. It wasn't nobody enjoyed it. Everybody disliked it. But it's our native language, and I think if you have people like Max speaking it, I think the next generation of kids are gonna realise that it's vital that we learn to speak it, and it's vital that we bring that language back. So I'm trying to learn a little bit on Duolingo, but I'm still miles behind. Yeah.
Shauna speaks Irish as well, doesn't she?
Shauna,
yeah,
does she as well? I love it. I love the fact when I hear that, I'm like, we were brought up thinking it's not cool and it's the worst subject you can do, but with people like Max and Thomas Carty, he speaks and there's lots of people speaking. Conor speaks as well. He speaks. He's fluent.
He's fluent, yeah.
He's fluent as well. Now he hasn't spoken a long time, but he is fluent. And when you have a conversation with him, or when he has a conversation with somebody that speaks, he can get it back fairly quick. Him and one of our old teammates, Tom Egan, was another Gael guy. He spoke Irish as well. So I think it's vital that we bring it back.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, see when Max was over in Australia, you didn't go in, did you?
No, he was he was in Thailand, so he went over. He looks to do a stint here and there in Thailand, which is brilliant. Over in Bangkok, he goes over there. He only focuses on fighting. He's no distractions. Doesn't have to worry about work. Doesn't have to worry about getting up. He doesn't have to worry about anything apart from eating right, training, and recovering. And for young athletes, it's an amazing thing to do. So he was over there for a couple of months, and Volkanovski was there, and he obviously you seen how good Max was. He knew Max to move similar to one of his opponents that the Volk was fighting, and he brought Max in to finish out the camp run. So
deadly,
it was an amazing. I spoke to Max. He said it was an amazing experience, but it gives you a huge confidence boost when Max can move around with the UFC champion and feel like he's doing okay and improve week by week, and obviously Volk is phenomenal. He's the best in the world. But Max, if Max is able to do okay against him, then it boosts your confidence, makes you realise, okay, Max is 20 or 21 years of age. He's only a young kid, like, you know what I mean?
Even surrounded by that sort of mindset and
Yeah.
that discipline, like, that would all influence you. Like, I seen this thing, it was a study, right?
Yeah.
Has me real interested. They brought 2 different groups of people in, didn't tell them what they were doing.
Yeah.
They put one group in a sauna and they collected their sweat samples, put them in bags or whatever, left them. They brought the other group in, they brought them all skydiving, and they sweated the same amount as the people that were in the sauna. They collected their sweat samples as well. And then they brought a 3rd group in that hadn't sweat.
Yeah.
They showed them each sample and made them smell it, didn't tell them what it was. And there was a chemical reaction in their brain when they smelt the sweat from the people skydiving that automatically kicked fear into their brain. Okay. And that just shows, if you're even surrounded by people who are like fear or doubters, that can, without even you knowing it, it's a chemical reaction in your brain that you can smell. Like,
right. It's Jesus, because we don't know. That's crazy. Where was that study? Where did you find that?
I found it. I'm big into reading now, and I've seen it in one of these books.
Yeah, you'll have to send it on to me. I'd be fascinated with that. You know, psychology and how your mental state affects your physical state. You know, a friend of mine told me. I spoke to. I have a friend who's a neurologist. And, you know, we were talking about how words and stuff can affect you. So, how somebody's words can affect you physically. And I'm like, how can what somebody says affect what's going on physically in your body? And he said a very simple example. He says, if I say something to embarrass you, what happens to your face?
Your face goes red.
It goes red. So there you go. The words have caused a physical reaction.
Yeah.
And then I went red. But there you go. It's crazy. Like it's along the same lines, isn't it?
Yeah. You know something I was itching to ask you as well. From watching you in the corner at Max through the weekend, and obviously you're in the corner for many big fights. Say if your fighter is feeling the pressure of the lights, or if they're behind on the scorecards, or they get a good hit and they're down on their spirits, they come to your corner. You sort of have to be like a motivational speaker and everything. Yeah. What's your speech? What do you say to them? Like sort of the Leon Edwards speech. Remember? Like to pull this out of the fire. Yeah. What do you say?
I'd be a bit calmer now, to be honest. I always just resort back to what we've done prior to going in there. You know, you would hopefully have you know, went through all the different scenarios. So, you know, in a fight camp, okay, this is our plan A, this is our A game. We go in, fucking, you do a backflip and fucking backflip kick and knock him out, jump up onto the cage and everybody throws his rose at you, and that's our plan A, perfect. But then we have to have plan B and plan C. Like, what happens if you don't knock him out in the 4th round? What happens if you can't knock him out? What's our next plan of attack? Do we have the option to take him down? Do we have plan C, which is when you're on the back foot, how do we figure it out? So, you know, if you know, let's say Max had a bad round in that fight, you know, I would have went back to the corner and said, okay, Max, this part of the game's not working. So we can't work on our jab. Let's work on a low calf kick or something like that. Let's break down his lead leg, and then off that, then he won't have the ability to fire that heavy right hand. Yeah. And then we'll go with that in the next round and build off that. So it's your game plan has to be malleable. You have to be able to change it. You have to be able to switch the flip of the switch. You have to be able to change the game plan. But you should have multiple game plans. You should be able to change on the fly, and just you know, reinforce your student that, you know, they're capable of going in. Like, you can lose for 14 minutes of a fight and still pull it out of the bag in the last minute. So you're not out until you're asleep. You know what I mean. Yeah. So, and just keep them motivated and keep them positive. And keep them going, you know.
And how do you think, see, like, when, like, big venues for fights, do you think that, like, say, like, the pressure of the actual fight gets to a lot of fighters, like,
some
say for like a world title fight?
Yeah, some people, everybody deals with pressure differently. Yeah. Some people, you know, it ignites them. Some people, you know, you have to really remind them that, yeah, there's a couple of thousand people here. But when you go into the cage, it's just you and him. Yeah. So just focus on the person in front of you, and everything else will be blanked out. So everybody's different. What you try and do is you have to look at what allows your fighter to fight to the best of their ability. So is that, do I need to roll you up? This fucker in here is at the bleeding. He's trying to take everything you work for. Are you gonna let him do that? Yeah. And the guys like me bollocks, I'm gonna go in there and willing to die in there. Or, you know, look, it's just like another sparring session. You've sparred tougher guys in there. Yeah, there's loads of people around, but once you're in there with you and him, it's about skill, and you have the best skill. So you keep the other person calm. So it all depends on who you're dealing with, and that takes time. You have to build relationships with your every individual, every different fighter.
Yeah.
And you have to learn what every different fighter, what makes them tick, what motivates them. Whether it's whether it's money, whether it's being a world champion, whether it's you're fighting for your family, whether it's fighting for God, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Find what they love, find what motivates them, and reinforce that.
Yeah.
Do you think a home crowd or an away crowd, like if they're fighting away from home or they're fighting from home, do you think that affects it?
It depends. The same again. It depends on the person. You know what I mean?
Because sometimes when you're really in the zone, like you wouldn't really hear anybody outside the crowd.
Yeah,
so
you don't hear
anything. It
anything.
wouldn't make a difference.
Yeah, you said you've boxed. Yeah.
Yeah. So even from being in the stadium, obviously nowhere near the level.
It doesn't make a difference. It is the same.
You can hear. You can. When I'm in there, you're nervous. No matter where you are, you're nervous until the bell rings. As soon as the bell rings, I can't hear anything except my coach. I cannot hear a thing except my coach.
Yeah, you become hyper focused on a few things. Everything gets tighter. You know what I mean? It's you see you and your opponent, and then a voice that's familiar to you that you've heard for the last fucking 8 weeks for you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what happens. So you just remind your fighters that when you're in there, you won't see Anne, you won't feel Anne, you won't hear Anne. For me, fighting. I used to be a lot more nervous fighting at home in Dublin, but then again, I think the times that I fought in Dublin were my best fights, probably because I felt like I had to perform. Like, you know what I mean? I didn't want to lose in front of my family and friends. Yeah. Where when you're away, you don't know anybody, so it's not as. Yeah. It's not as scary, so I think it can be good and bad. I think it's how you channel it. So you know what I mean. If you manage to, take the home crowd and fuel yourself off it, it can lift you. Especially in certain fights, like if you're down on the fight and you're losing, and that home crowd is cheering you on, it'll give you a little bit of a lift to try and work a little bit harder to get out of there. Where if you could be getting booed. And you could be fighting away, and you could be losing the fight, and you're getting booed, and you're like, just let me out of here. Or that could motivate you. That the fact that somebody's down you could motivate you. So it all depends. It's all relevant to the person, and we're all different. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we all kind of approach things differently. You know what I mean? And deal with things differently.
It's all a mental game as well, isn't it? Like even in that Leon Edwards fight, like he really was down on himself first. What was it, the first 2 rounds?
Yeah, he was losing.
Yeah.
And, that's not his dad, I don't think, isn't it?
No, it's his uncle.
His uncle or something, yeah. So, but, he said what he needed to say at that time. It wasn't technical advice, it was light the fire, reignite the fire.
Yeah.
And that's what he needed. And
I think one of the biggest things, what I think is, you need to be able to adapt as a coach, don't you?
Yeah, of course.
Do you think that's a big thing?
Yeah, you can't be. I don't think you can be. One size doesn't fit all. Yeah. We're all too diverse. So, what I say to you, what works for you, is probably not going to work for you. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So, you can only know what to say when you've spent many years and many hours coaching and learning, and from trial and error. I have a debut going. I go in and I say certain things to one, and that doesn't work for him. You know what I mean? But then you watch and you learn and you listen to him and you realise, okay, this guy is fighting because he has a young family or whatever, and he wants to get to the UFC because he feels this is his only option. Yeah. I know for a fact if you say that to him in the 3rd round of a fight that he's losing, I'd say you're fighting. Don't forget who you're fighting for. That's gonna light him up. Do you know what I mean? Or the guy is just a super athlete and he wants to be a world champion. I mean, if you don't get this win in this 3rd round, if you don't go in and finish this, so your chances of becoming a world champion have slimmed. Yeah. He's gonna do his best, isn't he? You know what I mean? So, but this is it. You know what I mean? It's trial and error, like everything in life. You know what I mean?
One thing we do on this podcast is we usually get the last guest that was on. They don't know a thing about the next guest or who they are or what they do. Right. And they ask them a question.
Yeah.
And the last question we got asked for you was, if you could change one thing in your process or journey, would you change it?
If I could change something, I don't like the idea of, you know, I don't like having regrets over stuff.
Don't like dwelling on the past.
Yeah. I've had, I don't like saying I'd love to change this, because I'm where I am today. I'm happy where I am today, and even if you're not, you're still here. You know what I mean? You change one small thing in your life, and God knows where you could be.
Yeah,
You could be, you could be dead. You could be, you know, God knows. And there's definitely things, stuff that's happened to me growing up and through my career, that at the time was the hardest thing in my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, at that moment, I'd be saying to myself, I wish I could change this. But what came after that, you know, I'm so happy with what came after that. So I wouldn't change that. No. Although there was things that I wanted to do in life that I never got to do, but also there's things that I've done in life that I never would have got a chance to do if I had to change things. So no, I'm happy where I am.
There you go.
You know?
So we're going to go back to the start, but just keep that in mind and think if you have a question for the next guest.
Yeah, then
throw
we
it
have.
at the end.
I forget everything. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll ask it again at the end.
Of I know an elephant never forgets. That's the other one. What's the opposite of an elephant?
Goldfish.
A goldfish. Yeah.
I
love it. Oh God! So go ahead there. So where did it all start for me?
Where did it all
What was
start?
life like growing up?
Well, I'm
School
from
and stuff?
Ballymun, obviously, yeah, and so I'm from Poppentry, the courts down the court there. Grew up hanging around in the flats and Balcurris, and it was brilliant. Ballymun was unbelievable. It was crazy, exciting, dangerous, but you know, we knew nothing else.
Yeah.
We knew no different. But I've learned so much. I've went through so much growing up as a kid. I've learned so much that I'm so happy that I came up in Ballymun, and so life was good. I played football for Ballymun United for many years before I got into fighting. I was a half decent footballer. I was a good defender. The team we were on was really, really good, and eventually a lot of the lads left and went on to other teams, and then I got a bit bored of football. I was looking for something else to do. I hung around the flats, acted the bollocks with all my friends for a few years, and then somebody gave me a video, VHS. You wouldn't even know what they are, but like basically it was out before Netflix basically. But gave me a videotape. He says, have a look at that. It's actual real fighting, and I thought it was wrestling. So I was looking at it. I was like, actually no, it was the UFC one. So I watched a bloke called Hoist Gracie, a little small guy, beat up a load of big guys. And I was like, I have to learn to do that, because I was small and skinny at the time.
Yeah.
And I went looking for it, found the club, and I was addicted from day one. And
What age did you start?
18. So it wasn't that young. It wasn't out. There was nobody doing it. There was a small group of people doing it down south in Dublin, and then there was a small group of people doing it up north. And we were the first group. There was John Kavanagh, Andy Ryan, Dave Jones, Dave Roach was from Ballymun as well. I knew of Dave Roach. I met Dave. Dave had a van, a little shop van. We used to have the little containers, shop vans around the flats, and Dave Roach had one. And he was known to be a good fighter, and we were messing, trying to rob sweets on him, and he bleeding. He came out and he kicked me in the head. Not hard, messing, but he just gave me a quick snap kick in the head. And I was like, oh Jesus. But then I found out he was doing no holds barred fighting and UFC fighting, so I reached out to him, and he introduced me to John Kavanagh and stuff like that, and John Kavanagh has been my long time coach. Now Dave is back coaching in SBG as well. And yeah, the rest is history. I started fighting. I was a professional for many, many years.
What was your amateur career like?
We had no amateur career. No, straight in.
Straight into pro?
Straight in.
What was your first fight like the first experience?
Mental. I fought up the north, I think. Yeah, I fought
sorry for interrupting. What age was your first professional fight then?
No, I think it was about 19. No, sorry, it was might have been about 20 maybe, or something like that. I wasn't long training, you know what I mean? But there was no amateur, there was nobody, it was just, you want to do this? Do you want to do an MMA fight? Yeah, do an MMA fight. So I fought up in the north of Ireland, and same again, we fought in the ring, my nerves was gone. I fought a kid that's still fighting now. It's funny, one of my students fought this guy last year, a guy called Chris Stringer. And he's still fighting to this day. Like, he was, yeah, and but it was a great fight. Chris was very, very good. I was very good. I think I beat him in the first or second round. I think it might have actually been the first round, because I remember, or it was the end of the second round. It was the end of the round anyways, because I remember thinking to myself, if I don't beat this guy now, I'm bleeding bollocks, then I'm gonna lose. Yeah. But I think I caught him in I think it was a triangle choke or something like that.
Yeah.
But I was only a kid, but I loved it. From then on, I was like, this is what I want to do. This is unbelievable.
Which aspect of it gravitated to you more, like the striking side?
At first I was more a jiu-jitsu guy, because jiu-jitsu was how you won. Nobody knew jiu-jitsu. Yeah. So if you got good at jiu-jitsu, and my coach John was the best in the country at jiu-jitsu. Yeah. So, you know, we were learning jiu-jitsu from him, so we were always going to be the best at it. And but once I got a bit comfortable with jiu-jitsu, I was like, let me keep it on the feet here and see if we can try my hand at a few digs and a few knees. And I started landing my shots. I always knew that if I needed to change the game plan, I could take them down and sub them. So like I'll keep it on the feet. And then once I started knocking people out, I was like, this is way better.
Yeah.
So but I think at about 50-50, at 50% knockout ratio and 50% submission ratio. So I was like, I was good. I was good at both. I was good at subs and I was good at TKOs or KOs.
So were you working as well?
I worked for a while. I was doing, Jesus, when I first started, I'd left school. I was going to go to college to do art, and then I was like, there's no money in art, aren't you bleeding die, is there? So, yeah. So what I mean? So I said, no, there's no point. I got a job. I was driving forklifts in Glasnevin, and I was doing all right. I was making okay money. Then the manager was like, we have like an apprenticeship, like it's like a calibrator. You calibrate these machines and stuff like that for a pharmaceutical company. She says, we'll take you on. You'll get about £400 or £500 at the time, and then it'll go up incrementally over the years. So you'll be doing well. And I was like, will I do that? And then I was like, oh, will I just try and do MMA? And I was just like, fuck that, I'm gonna give MMA a go. So I told them, man, I said, look, I'm gonna quit the job, and I'm gonna do MMA. And they were like, what even is MMA? You're mad. Yeah. And then same, my man and dad were the same, like, what are you doing? They thought it was like traditional martial arts, like just like, you know, Shotokan karate or whatever. My brother done that, so they thought it was that. Didn't realise it was full on kind of no holds barred fighting, like, to an extent. And I just said, look, I'm going to give it a go. And, you know, the rest is history. I fell in love with it. I did okay as a fighter, and then I was making okay money coaching as well. So, and then eventually, you know, I started coaching a lot of the pros and stuff like that, and obviously coached Conor. And
yeah. Would I be right in saying you got injured or something in your
I did. That was my last fight. Well, I got injured. I don't know how I got injured, but so what happened was I was fighting on Cage Warriors in Glasgow, and I was on the tear. I was close to getting to the UFC. I think I was on a 9-fight win streak or something big. I just won. I defended my Cage Contenders title 3 times. Signed with Cage Warriors. I fought a guy called Wilson Hayes, who was very, very good. One of the best in the world. He ended up going on and fighting for the UFC, fighting for the belt. He lost to Demetrius Johnson, but he was really, really good fighter. Jeez. And I had a great fight against him, and I lost, but I felt like I gave him a bit too much respect. I think I was a little bit intimidated by his name, and, you know, maybe fighting on Cage Warriors and stuff. I fought my heart out. I was coming into my own into the third round. I was doing all right, but he clipped me with I threw a left knee, I think, and he clipped me with a shot and dropped me, and then landed an elbow on top. And when he landed the elbow, you see I have a scar here, busted my lip open, split my lip, and was whacking a few elbows. I don't remember any of it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've no recollection of being knocked out. And then he just caught a bleeding choke on me and put me to sleep. So I was out. And then after that I was like, alright. I said, look, he's very good, one of the best in the world. I had the opportunity to win, I was doing very well. So I was like, this fucking year I'm gonna go after people and I'm gonna smash everybody and I'm gonna go to the UFC. And then I got a brain scan and it came out on my head that I had these white dots scattered all over my brain. So it's called white matter hyperintensities. So you get white matter in your brain as you get older. You know, it's like the cell's going to die. Yeah. But what I believe was happening with me, it was, you know, taking bangs and stuff like that. The brain is rocking and the brain is stretching a little bit and it's tearing, and I was getting these marks in my brain, and I had a lot of them. And I spoke to a friend of mine, a neurologist, and he was like, he says, I don't know whether it's from years of fighting, I don't know whether it's what it's from on, but he says, you know, you have a lot of marks on your brain, and that could have happened in the last 2 years. It could have happened when you were a child, because we don't have a scan to look back and see, you know, when you develop this. You know, it's up to you whether you want to try and fight again. But he says, I highly doubt that you'll be taken on by the UFC if you if you show them that scan. So I weighed up the options. I tried to get around it for a long time because it was my goal to get to the UFC and, you know, fucking, you know, showcase my skills. And I rang around. I got people to try and contact the UFC and find out if they would, and I was trying to find ways around of getting around the scans and stuff like that. And I realised I had 2 young kids at the time as well, and I was like, it's not worth. For the next, I was, what age was it? I was about 29 or something at the time. So I was like, if I'm to, you know, fight for another 5 years and do a lot more damage, you know, what am I going to be like when I'm fucking 50? Or what am I going to be like now when I'm fucking 42?
Yeah.
So the fact that I had kids and stuff like that, I couldn't take the risk. And the fact that I was very unlikely that I would have been signed. Like nowadays in Ireland or any of the bigger shows, you'll get a brain scan, and if there's any sort of damage like that, they won't sign you. So, which is great, you know what I mean, for young kids, you know, that are coming through, because you don't want to be, you know, you hear of boxers dementia and you hear of, you know, all of these diseases you get from taking impact. So I'm kind of glad that I retired. At the time it was the hardest thing to go through in my life, but now when I look back, your fighting career is a very small part of your, you know, it's a very small part of your life. You fight competitively, you know, maybe for 15 years if you're lucky. Out of those 15 years you probably have 5 golden years where you're at your peak and you're doing your best, and then after that, well, the amount of damage that you can do in those 15 years, you know, it's very dangerous, you know. So I'm glad I retired when I did, and I still have half of my senses, you know what I mean.
I can see you earned your cauliflower ears.
Oh jeez, both of them are in bits. Yeah, I've took me bleeding beatings over the years as well, but look, we take our beatings and we get back up and we try and improve and move forward, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And so, after your fighting career, then what made you go fully into the coaching? Because that could have annoyed you and said, John, if I can't do it, fuck it, I don't really want to do this anymore. I want to do something else. I spent a good while, like a good 6 or 7 months trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Because, you know, I set a goal as a kid to get to the UFC, get enough money to buy a gaff. That was it. That was the goal. I was like, I'm gonna get the UFC, I'm gonna win a few bob, and I'm gonna buy a gaff out of it. Yeah. And obviously, when that didn't happen, I was like, fuck this sport, fuck it all, like. And then I was like, I can go back and do an apprentice or do something. Well, like do an apprentice, I was nearly 30, so I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then I was like, I have a gym, I can make a few bob out of it, I can potentially help some guys. Try, you know, the fact that my goal got taken away from me, I was like, maybe it's a good thing to help some guys achieve their goal. And I went into coaching full time. I was coaching
a lot of classes for John in SBG. I was teaching all the striking classes, and then I was teaching the kids program. Then I set up my own small gym in Ballymun, Primal MMA it was called at the time, and then I had young lads coming through there as well. And I was like, look, you know, if I can't get to the UFC myself, I'll try my best to help somebody get to the UFC, and help them achieve their goal. So that was the goal, that was the thing. And I the fact that what I've done as a coach, probably, well, I'd imagine it has far surpassed what I potentially could have done as a fighter, I believe, but who knows.
Can you tell straight away when someone walks into the gym?
Yeah, you can tell. Some people have certain attributes, do you know what I mean? So some people pick up techniques very quick. Some people have unbelievable belief in themselves from day one, which is it's a great characteristic to have. Some people are workhorses. Some people are very creative. So everybody has different attributes and different qualities. But my own coach said it best, John. It's like, let's say if they're still there after 6 months. Let's say if they're still there after 2 years. And it's the people that turn up. You can have all the best attributes. You can have all the best qualities. You can be naturally gifted. You can have everything. But if you're not there every single day, day in, day out, if you're not at home watching tape, if you're not doing the extra work at home, so you come up to the gym every day, but what are you doing then after that? Like if you're in the gym for 2 hours in the evening, what are you doing for the rest of the day? Are you watching tape? Are you stretching? Are you eating clean? So if you're doing that, they're the people that will always become the best. You know what I mean? But then sometimes you have the perfect storm. You have a Conor that has unbelievable belief in himself from day one. Has phenomenal work ethic. Is always watching tape. Is always studying the game. Has a death touch, which I don't know whether you can teach it. He just touches people on the chin and he goes to sleep. So it's just a perfect storm. But he'd never been able to do it if he didn't put the hours in either. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? He had a lot of gifts, but you don't have the gift of working hard. You just have to work hard. You know what I mean? And that's it. But yeah, all the best people on the planet have they're unique in their qualities, but they all have the same thing in common, which is work ethic. You know what I mean? And that's the same. That's not only in martial arts. That's across the board. That's in business. That's in life. It's the ones that are up every day. When they fail, they get up. When they win, they get up. When they're relentless in their pursuit of their goal.
Yeah. At what point did Conor walk into your gym?
Conor came into the gym as a kid as well. Like I think he was 18 or something, 19, and the same. He came in. He was the same person. Very confident. Thought he was going to be a world champion from the first day. Yeah. And half of us were laughing to ourselves, thinking because he was very good striker, like very very good boxer. Still didn't have any kicks or anything like that. He good hands, but he just believed he was going to be the best. But over 6 months, he's still there, and he's like, Jesus, he's getting good at jiu-jitsu now. He's starting to figure it out. And then he's like, Jesus, he's getting good at wrestling, defense, and Jesus, he's fucking bleeding. He's getting the bleeding cardio in, and before you know it, he became a complete fighter. You know what I mean? But he was 18. He came in. He was bleeding. He was touching people on the chin, and you could just see he had the ability to knock everyone out. It was phenomenal, And I remember even saying to one of the lads, actually, I forget who it was, but I remember saying to the boys, it was like, this kid has the potential to go all the way. You know what I mean? I was always thinking I should have put a bleeding bet on in the bookies a couple of years ago. You know what I mean? Yeah, put a fucking £100 on this fella to become the UFC champion by the time he's whatever 40, because he had it, and just.
And did his energy in the gym inspire other people?
100%. Yeah. We were all grafters at the time. There was a crew of us, and we had a couple in each weight category, so it was weird at the time. It was brilliant because we had a fighter nearly in each weight category, so it was like we were bleeding, sending out hitman. They were, you go out and take out the welterweights, you go out and take out the lightweights, you go out and take out the feathers, you take the bantams, you take the flys, you take Ash, you take out all the women or whatever. We were just fucking tearing. We were on a tear and we were smashing everyone, and we were the best team in the country and one of the best teams in Europe at the time. But we were very self-conscious group, and you're Irish, you don't want to act overly confident. And then Conor comes along and just starts telling us all. He says, "I'm gonna knock this guy out." I'm like, "Yeah, all right, you knocked out this guy on the local stage, but now you're on Cage Warriors. You're not gonna knock this guy out." Then he flattens that guy. "Yeah, I'm gonna win the bleeding belt." I'm like, "Well, I know Conor, but this is Cage Warriors. This is Cage Warriors belt. This is like a world title." He goes in and flattens, the guy and wins the featherweight belt, and he's like, "I'm gonna be the double champ." But after 2 or 3, you couldn't help but believe him, and then you couldn't help but have belief in yourself, because you're like, "Well, we're training every day together, and whatever about doing it on the night and knocking people out." He would have competitive rounds. You know what I mean? We were all competitive. We were all similar, so everyone's confidence boosted after Conor. And then the one thing he said he would do, which is what he did, was when he got to the UFC, he opened up the door, and he kept the door open, and everyone got through. And that was another hard time for me, because I had to retire just before everyone got in. So it was bittersweet. It was bitter in my own career, because I felt I should have been there. But you can't help but be happy to see 6 or 7 of the lads that we all grew up with get signed and go on and have some of the most unbelievable nights that you could ask for, like the night in Dublin when we'd I think five Irish guys fighting on the card, and they all won, and it was just magic, some magic moments over the years, you know what I mean?
As Conor says that himself, he says relentless belief in yourself and relentless action equals relentless success.
Yeah.
And it is a fact, like what you were saying, work ethic and belief.
Yeah, 100%. And I have to give Conor credit. His belief and his confidence just oozed out across the team. Do you know what I mean? It was just something so unique that we'd never seen before. Somebody that can say something and just manifest it as well.
Do you believe in manifestation?
I do. I believe in manifestation and work ethic
going together
side by side.
Yeah.
Because
the law of attraction and the law of action.
Yeah, that's perfect. You know what I mean? Because I can sit in the bedroom every night, play my PlayStation, eat Pringles, drink a 2 litre of Coca-Cola and have a Snickers bar and go, "I'm gonna manifest out of this fat, no problem. I'm just gonna manifest it every day."
Yeah.
And you're gonna just get bigger and bigger. But if you say to yourself, I believe I'm going to, whatever it may be, fill in the blank. I believe I'm going to do this. Your brain, I believe your brain never wants to be wrong. So if you tell yourself, "I want to be the best at this," your brain's going, "Okay, well look, if you want to be the best, here's some things that might help you. Maybe if you get up early and you put a few extra hours in said project, that's going to help you get better." And then it's like it's a snowball effect, you know what I mean? So you say it in your mind, you put the graft in behind it, and fucking sky's the limit, I believe. You know what I mean? Also, you have to be able to take the losses, and you have to be able to take the knocks and bangs. And one thing that martial arts gave me, and MMA and jiu-jitsu, you have to be okay with failing. In jiu-jitsu, you fail multiple times in a session. You get choked, and it's the biggest failure. You feel like you're emasculated because you're forced to submit to a person that beat you in a physical confrontation. Do you know what I mean? That's I mean, you can lose a fucking game of snooker or a pool or a football match. It's not like being forced to admit that the guy was better physically than you. You know what I mean? Yeah. In a physical confrontation. So it's a hard thing. It's a bitter pill to swallow until you get used to it and you realise, okay, it's part of the game, part of the process.
Yeah,
so
champions are built on the losses.
Yeah, exactly. So I think if you can learn to get used to losing, and you fail, fail, find a solution, and go back at the same problem with a new angle, with a solution. You'll probably get a step closer, and then there'll be another problem, and you find a solution to that problem, and you go back at it again, and it's fail your way all the way up.
Yeah.
Fail your way to success, isn't it?
That's what I was literally looking at a quote today, and I was like, if I told you to fail 30 times and then you receive your dreams or your success that you want, how fast would you fail?
Yeah.
That's just like,
and that's it. It's fail forward is another one I heard, which is great. Like, you have to. Some people, the fear of failure is what it's what stops people from doing anything. You know what I mean? And I think sports. I think when you bear it all in front of people, and you get used to that, that's when you're going to be successful. So whether you do that through sports, whether you do it by like what you're doing, you set up a podcast. First episodes are like, is this going to be shit? All my mates are going to be laughing at me. People are going to be slagging me because of this.
Yeah.
And your brain will do everything in its power to protect you.
Yeah.
And we still think we're out in the bleeding in the wilderness, and a lion is going to get us. So anything that we're afraid of, our brain is going to be like, it's alright, you don't have to do that. Little voice in your head, don't go out there. Don't put yourself out there and bleeding. Go out in front of people. Imagine you're lost. Don't do that. You'll embarrass yourself.
Yeah.
But you have to learn to override that. Do you know what I mean? Or don't fucking bleed set up a podcast. You look stupid. Don't do this. Don't do that. Because your brain wants to protect you. It doesn't want you to go. It doesn't want to put. It doesn't want to allow you to go out there in fear of failing, and in fear of, obviously, your brain thinks it's going to do you actual harm, and it's not actual harm. But it's all on the other side of that fear is where all the success is. So once you push through it, the good stuff is there. You know what I mean? You just have to force it.
Another thing, an example I always say of the law of attraction and the law of action is, if you're manifesting you want to win the lotto, you still have to go out and buy a lotto ticket.
There you go. Yeah, it's exactly sitting at home, I'm gonna win it. Yeah, did you get a ticket? No.
So how are you gonna win it?
It's gonna fucking blow in through your window, isn't it? You know what I mean?
The dove's gonna fly it in through the window.
Yeah, I might try that now when I get home. Sitting at the window all night. Yeah.
But,
it's mad, isn't it?
Question I have for you, you had a lot of nights under the lights.
Yeah.
Was there ever a time?
I was going to say I had nights on the rip. I was like, what are you bleeding on there? Under the lights, we did, yep.
Was there ever a time that you were actually nervous and you had that butterfly in your stomach, and obviously you can't show that to your fighter, because if you're showing that to your fighter, then your fighter's going to be 10 times nervous.
Yeah.
So how do you hold on to that fear? How did you overcome it?
You just put on your poker face, isn't it? We're all nervous. Everyone's nervous.
Nerves are a good thing, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They are once you don't allow them to consume you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And they will consume you if you haven't put the work in. So, if you're going out into a fight, right, and you haven't trained, those nerves are going to swallow you up fairly quick.
Yeah.
And before you get in there, you'll have lost. Okay? But if you're nervous going into a fight and you know you put the work in, well then all you have to do is talk to yourself and say, okay, yeah, I am nervous, yeah. I could get knocked out in the 4th second. I could trip and fall before I get into the cage, bump my head, and everyone will laugh. But like the likelihood of that happening is very slim. And the fact that you've walked, you know, if you go back to yourself and you say, okay, I'm going in here at a point, but I've put 8 weeks in. I didn't cheat. I didn't cut corners on my diet. I've done my very best. I made every session possible. I've listened to my coach. I know the game plan. I know what's going on here. I know my plan A. I know my plan B. I know blah blah blah. Then the fear and the nerves subside, and they actually nearly bleeding. They nearly spur you on. You know what I mean? Because it's all adrenaline at the end of the day. It's adrenaline that's your body's just getting ready for you to fight or flight. Go in and perform or run away. And when you get in and the cage door closes, you're gonna have to fight. So once you go in and you're prepared, and it's the same as a coach, like you're under the lights, the nerves is gone, and I'm like, fucking hell, Jesus Christ, the biggest fight in fucking UFC history, or the biggest fight in combat sports history, or whatever it is, because I've been at them all, you know what I mean? But we know I've worked hard myself as a coach. I know I've watched all the tape. I know we have worked all the techniques that we think are going to win. I know all the problems that can potentially come up. I know that my fighter has done the work and ticked all the boxes. And then unfortunately, it's a roll of the dice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you can have the best training camp. You can do everything perfect, and on the night.
That's what Mike Tyson says.
On the night, sometimes it's just not your night. Sometimes the better man wins. Sometimes mistakes happen, and it's the sport. And what happens is, if the guy, there's always going to be stuff you can improve on then after the fight. The guy done this. We can fix that. We can improve that. We can correct all the mistakes and go again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so the nerves come. Yeah, I take a couple of breaths, and go, okay, well I've done everything in my power, and if I've done everything possible in order for me when I used to fight to go in and win, and if as a coach, if I've done everything in my power to help my fighter be prepared and go in there, then I can only do that. That's all you can ask of yourself.
Yeah.
So if you've done that, then flip the coin and see what happens.
That's what Mike Tyson says, that everyone has a plan till a punch in the face.
Yeah, and that's it. And, it is. It's a cruel game because it's unfair. It's individual sports. Individual sports are some of the hardest. It's a hard thing to do as a person. You know what I mean? Because you're in there. Although you've no one to blame. You have a team behind you, of course, that's helped you, but you have to go in and do it. It's all on you. Now, the flip side of that is, like, most of the reward is yours as well. So you're in there by yourself. If you win, you're the man. Do you know what I mean? If you lose, you're fucking shite. Do you know what I mean? Well, that's what you'll tell yourself. Nobody else. Anyone close to you won't tell you that to you. But so an individual sport is hard. Individual combat sports is even harder because it's hard on the ego, because it's your manhood in there. It's you're bearing everything in a physical fight, a physical competition. Do you know what I mean? So if you lose, you feel like you're a little bit weaker. You know what I mean? But you just have to learn to get used to it. Take the wins. Be modest in your wins and be humble in your defeats, I suppose, isn't it?
That's it. Right. Are you proud of when you do something in your career, or when one of your fighters does something? Like, would have been proud of you winning the belt in the Cage Warriors, or would have been proud of you when Conor won one of his belts? Like,
I'm proud of both. It's different, obviously, because you've helped your guy get there, and when you've done it yourself, you still haven't done it yourself. You've done it with a team. I think the fact that if you go out and set out a goal, whether it's your own goal, that's something you're doing yourself, or whether you're helping somebody do. I think if you just go out and set a goal and you achieve that goal, the feeling is the same. You know what I mean? Like, the feeling is the same before you go out fighting yourself. Your nerves are gone, and when your fighter goes out, your nerves are gone. Yeah. When they win, it's the same feeling. Also, I think maybe it's a little bit better as well, because you have your own joy because you've helped them get there, and then you have the joy of looking at a friend or a student or something achieve their goal. So you're going to get a double whack of dopamine. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's good. Both. It's all good. The wins are great. It doesn't matter if you win or it's your teammates win. The losses are terrible.
Yeah. How did you, as coaches, go back to the drawing board for the Diaz fight? What improvements did you make there?
That was.
Do you think you sort of underestimated Diaz?
Yeah, probably to an extent. Like, I just thought Conor, at the time, Conor was knocking everyone out. Yeah. He was knocking people out with the wind of his punches at the time. So I just couldn't see, me personally, I just couldn't see Conor. I just couldn't see Diaz being able to take all the shots. I was like, yeah, he might take 2 or 3. He's that tough and that durable. But he's not going to be able to take all the shots. And he did. And then there was a load of other things, like Conor he was sick, no, he doesn't say it, but he wasn't well before the fight, and a load of other things, so he didn't fight his best in that fight. But, you know what, he held his hands up, he gave Diaz the credit he deserved. You know, he didn't realise how tough Diaz was. He wasn't good with his energy. I think he was throwing too many kicks, and he gassed a little bit early. And then we seen the mistakes that we made as a whole team, and we tried to correct them. We brought in, that was when after the Diaz, we brought in Doc and Colin from the fast, from McGregor fast, to take over the nutrition, the strength and conditioning and everything. For us, we realised, for myself and Conor, we realised that Diaz was going to be there no matter what. So we had to. Conor's like a sprinter, like so explosive, so powerful. Yeah. But you can't sprint forever. You can't sprint for 25 minutes. So we had to learn to make him walk in bursts. So in certain times during the fight, you'll see Conor drop him too. Conor dropped him down many times in the fight. But you'll see at times when Diaz is putting the pressure on Conor, he was on the bike, he was just running away, moving away and recovering. Because if we stayed in front of Diaz, Conor would probably hit him hard again, but Diaz would still be there. So we had to come up with an idea of chopping the legs, landing 2 or 3 big shots, relaxing, recovering, and doing it again, and doing it over the 25 minutes. And it was one of the best performances ever, because I think everybody seeing something that we didn't see in Conor, which was that dog, somebody that he never had to, he never hit anybody with his best shots and have them still stand there. And then, for him to do that and still find a way and being tough, being 1 or 2 sticky situations in that fight as well, and come through it. I just think he turned the corner in his career as a fighter and as a man, as everything. He just grew after that fight. He just grew to a whole new level. Do you know what I mean?
Do you think being in the sort of it's like tough Ultimate Fighter? Yeah. Do you think Dana White does the up and coming UFC fighters?
Is it the Contender Series or the Ultimate Fighter? The Contender Series.
Contender Series, yeah. Do you think being in that helped your coaching skills?
No, that's the Ultimate Fighter, because I wasn't at the Contender Series. So I did, yeah. So I was on the 2 of them. I done the first one. I done the first one when it was against Uriah Faber. Yeah. I was bleeding hilarious. It was very, very funny. Yeah. It was a great experience. It was after Conor had beat Mendes. We got asked to do that. It was funny. I was in Vegas for I think it was a good maybe 6 or 8 weeks or something consistently. I had to fly home because my dad was actually dying at the time. I flew home, and then my dad passed away. I flew back out for the fight. A week or 2 before the fight, we done the fight, and Conor won the belt. And then I'm in the airport flying home. Conor's like, "What's the story? Where are you?" I says, "I'm in the airport heading home." He says, "We're doing the Ultimate Fighter. You're gonna have to come back over." I says, "No way." I says, "Conor, I have to fly home, see my family or whatever, but like I'll be back out whenever you need me." So he was like, "Well, look, come, like we're filming in about a week or 2, so you'll have to come back out." So we flew home for a week, and then come back out then again. And it was great. I was tough. With the outlet, it was very tough. But my outlet was done. My outlet had cancer, and he was given, I think he was given 6 months or something, and then he ended up living for 2 years. He was given 6 weeks on the Diaz fight, not the Diaz fight. He was given 6 weeks on the Dennis Seaver fight, which is in Boston. I think it was in January or February. It was the winter anyway. And I was like, I didn't know whether I wanted to go over for that. And I was like, "Look, we'll be over and back or whatever. Like, I only need you over." I think it was over for a week or something, because we went doing a camp over there. So I flew over and done it. My dad was grand. And he was sick, but he was alright. And then I went over and done it. And my friend, the doctor friend that I have, Dan, he says, "Oh, I'll look after you, Dad, while you're gone." my dad was like, you go over and, you know, do your thing with the other fella and make sure he wins or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I was over there in the camp, and then just towards the end of the camp, I got a phone call just saying, "Oh, your dad hasn't got long. He's probably got, you know, a couple of days." So I flew home, spoke to me dad on the Sunday, and then that was the last thing I said to him. I just, you know, had a chat with him. He was like, "How's the other fella doing? Is he doing all right?" He says, "Yeah, he's in good nick. We're gonna, you know, he's gonna get this belt." And he was like, "Ah, that's brilliant. That was brilliant." And then he didn't speak then after that. He within 3 or 4 days he died. So it was rough one, but you know,
so
it is.
all that while you're under the big lights.
Yeah, you know what? But my dad asked me to do it. Not asked me to do it. I was unsure whether to do it or not, and he was like, you know, I'm gonna be just lying here. And then because I had my friend Dan looking after me dad, and he says, I'll make sure I get you home before anything happens. Like, well, I'll do my utmost of all the faith in the world in my friend Dan. You know, he's looked after me when I wasn't, with the head injury. He looked after my dad when he was passing. He looked after my mum when she was passing. So he was like a bleeding. He was like an angel sent from fucking heaven to me family. So when he said he'd look after him, and my dad gave me the nod, and I knew everything. I knew I could help Conor get the belt, and you know, fuck it, we done it. So it was brilliant. You know what I mean? It was great.
The likes of you was like Tyson Fury and Conor and all, like, you still show that anything's possible if you persevere through them fights.
Yeah. This is the truth. There's, like I said earlier, on
and not even his sort of self-belief. That doesn't just ooze through his gym. That's how it oozing all over Ireland, all over the world.
Listen,
anytime I scroll through my phone, it's Conor McGregor speaking about something and a video of him knocking someone out.
Yeah, you know what? It was, you know, the only thing I can compare it to is when Ireland got into
the World Cup,
in '94 in the USA, and then in the 1990
final.
Yeah, it was like when Conor started doing so well, and carrying the flag, and you know, we're not here to tear apart, we're here to take over, and you know, he brought Ireland with him, and you know, it was a special time, and you know, the fact that we all got to live through that, you know, and for me, the fact that I got to be so close and play a role in it, I'm blessed to have been part of it. But we're all blessed to have went through it. Like years ago, we used to sit up and watch Tyson fighting, and it was special to watch Tyson. But for to have one of your own over under the big lights in Las Vegas, and speaking the way he spoke and doing what he done, and you know, getting a whole nation behind him and getting the whole world behind him. It was a special time. It was like no other. You know what I mean? I don't think the UFC will ever see it. Well, they won't see it for a long time. Do you know what I mean? You won't get that magic.
Even in the video, we made a little video when we were going to interview McGregor.
Yeah.
And in the video, we said about the podcast, we're not here to take part, we're here to take over.
That's like it does.
Like, it does show us, and not even just in fighting, in business and that anything is possible. Like,
it is.
We know we can go worldwide at this now.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Like, I think if you're self-belief and work ethic, that's it. That's the magic. That's the magic formula. You know what I mean? Back yourself, and just get after it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day,
give up, you'll get it. Like.
Yeah, you'll get it. And then, you know, the problem is, like, especially for you guys now, you're young. You have, you know, what happens is sometimes life can get in the way. Like, you know, you might have. You know, me now, I've 3 kids. I've got a wife. I've got a house. I've got stuff that when you're looking to take big risks, you have to weigh up your options. It's like, you know, if I take this big risk and it fails, you know what I mean? You know, I can't really. So when you're young, I think when you're young and you've very little responsibility, take all the risks you can, you know. Get out there, fail, you know, do your best at whatever you want to do, fail as often, learn from it, see if it's something that you love to do, and go all in 100% and give it your best shot. And then as you get a bit older, hopefully you've been successful in it, and then you can start to settle down. Then you can have your family, if that may be what you want to do. Have your family and your kids, and sail off into the sunset and chill. You know what I mean? But when you're young, get after it. You know what I mean? Because you have the best opportunity when you're young. You know.
And arguably one of your hardest, toughest coaching experiences was the Mayweather fight when you transitioned to boxing. How all the lights were on you as well, because you were a striking coach. How did you? What was the game plan? How did you adapt from the cage to the ring?
It was obviously I thought at first that, to be honest, I didn't think it was going to happen. You heard it going back and forth, and I was like, there's no way it's going to happen. But same kind of created it, he manifested it into reality, and we went in. The game plan was to go in and not box like a straightforward boxer, not just go in and do what 49 at the time, I think it was 49 other boxers have 49 pro boxers at the highest level failed to do. So we tried to go in and try and switch stance a little bit and bump off the centre and get to his hip and get behind him and bully him a little bit. And the game plan was working. It was doing all right, but we also knew that Floyd, he's very good at changing strategies in the fight. We had a feeling we had a feeling like he'd come out and we'd probably at the start. We anticipated he thought he would just be going to be too good for Conor, and we was just going to be able to play with him. So he anticipated he would come out and just flick shots and try and take the piss. And it was like, if he does that, you're going to crack him, or you're gonna hit him, and he's going to realise, okay, fuck this, I need to be a little bit more cautious. Yeah. And that kind of happened, and then I was like, we anticipated he might kind of fill his shell up a little bit and sit back on the ropes, and we were hoping that kind of be able to get to his back and bully him a little bit. We didn't kind of anticipate that he would be able to put Conor on the back foot. Like, we thought that when he was catching the shots on the guard and getting into the pocket and making Conor hit the arms, we thought Conor would be able to push him back and bully him a little bit. But he was very good in the clinch, in tight, and he was very good at catching shots and making Conor forward and miss. And it was a battle of energy. You know what I mean? Conor wasn't used to doing 36 minutes, and trying to pace him out over 36 minutes probably was a bad idea. Maybe if Conor had went in and just tried to fucking blitz him straight off the bat and go balls to the wall, he probably could have knocked him out. So we don't know, but there was a few mistakes we made, and we lost due to it. But at the end of the day, like, the stats show that Conor landed more shots than any other fighter on Floyd. So we got the stats from CompuBox, which is the company that was keeping all the data, and he'd landed more, he'd done better than any other fighter at the time. So we'll take that, but we would have much rather get a rematch and get a win.
Yeah. What were you saying in the corner in the later rounds when you could sort of see Conor getting tired and Mayweather get more confident?
Yeah, the idea was to try and get Conor to take a round off and try and recover in the round and try and build up the get the stamina back up and then push towards the end. You know what I mean? But Floyd was very good at getting in his face, and Conor being Conor still thinks he'll knock anyone out, so Conor was like, I'll fucking hit him, and Mayweather was very good at making Conor miss by millimetres. Maybe it was the big gloves as well, you're not used to wearing them or whatever. Conor's very accurate, and he can land. He's very good at landing on the temple and landing on the chin. And Floyd just slightly missed the temple, slightly just grazed the chin. They just shot just tiny bits off, and that's probably why that's why he's undefeated and he's done so well. And then obviously as well, if we probably had been a bit more experienced, we probably could have told Conor in the tent to take a knee. So if you had took a knee, you probably could have took an 8 count, recovered, and got out of that round. But maybe a little bit of inexperience from my part. But then again, Conor probably wouldn't have took a knee anyway. He'd be like, me bollocks, somebody taking a knee. But these are things they only think of after the fight. But you know, I think maybe if we done it again, we could probably do better. You know, who knows?
What was the highlight of your career?
Oh Jesus, so many different things. I don't have one highlight. Like I had amazing moments as a fighter myself, and then as a coach, obviously any of the stuff that that I've done with Conor has only a handful of people on the planet ever get to do what I've I've done. So I'm forever grateful to have had the opportunity to do that and played a small part in it. And in my own career, I'm just grateful that I've got big wins and I've done very well. So I don't know what I can't pick one, to be honest. I'm just fucking grateful for it all.
What advice would you give to the younger generation out there?
Follow your dreams. Find something. Do loads of different things at first. Yeah, because yous are lucky. Yous have found something that you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
But if you ask 95% of the kids out there, what you want to do, I don't know. They don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know. So do loads of stuff. Do loads of stuff from the age 16 up to 20, 21 or something like that, 22 or whatever. And the stuff that you do in that time, I'm sure you'll find something that you love. And then the stuff that you love, double down on that for the next fucking 10 years. And I'm sure if you've done it for 10 years and you've been diligent and you've worked hard at it, you'll have formalised a way to create money out of it and create a job out of it. And then just try and do that for as long as you can. That might, you might have to change it up a little bit. You might have to be flexible and do something different. And if that's the case, be okay and know when it's time to change. Be adaptable as well, and just be happy and positive, and fucking enjoy every moment, because we're here for a short little spin. You know what I mean? So just fucking enjoy it while you can.
Who's the most famous number you have in your phone?
Most famous number? Obviously, probably Conor. You know what I mean? Yeah, definitely Conor. He's fucking out of them all. I've a few, like I've done some work. I know I do some pads with Danny from the script and stuff like that. I know he's got him on. Yeah. He appreciated your little hustle. He was saying, wasn't that something?
Yeah.
I remember he says, I like grafters or something. So why just do bleeding chase him down the road or something?
No, we are at do you know Mark Aldrich, Man United stand fella?
Yeah, okay.
He gave us tickets to his show,
right.
And it was a bit back and forth, and then eventually his manager came down to us, gave us the tickets. We were standing in the sort of hallway.
Yeah.
And next of all, as we're waiting on our tickets, Danny walks past us, taps. That's Danny from the script. So I'm like, right, on it, right. So I was like, look, Danny, we're 16, we're getting this amount of views.
Yeah.
We have our own podcast. We're planning to go to the top of the world with this and all, and we're looking up to you a world. You're one of our inspirations. We absolutely love to have you on. And he was like, what a pitch is that? He said, let's do it right now.
Sold.
Yeah, sold. So I was like, right, lovely and happy days.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Like, yeah, obviously Conor's bleeding, just, he's one of the most famous people on the planet, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it doesn't get much more famous than that. But it's brilliant. I'm delighted for you as well, guys. I think it's phenomenal that what you are doing. I think it's great for young kids to see what you are doing, and that'll motivate them to do whatever their passion may be. Even if if they're nervous and they see you putting yourselves out there, you inspire more young kids to do what they love, which is phenomenal. Yeah.
And what's your you have 2 gyms now, is it?
No, I have 1 gym, and then I have a equipment company, and I'm involved in a few things.
Yeah, you have your hand in a few things. Yeah, Instagram is a few different things.
Yeah. So obviously, my main job is SBG Charlestown, running the gym, coaching fighters, professional fighters, amateur fighters, people that just want to get fit. Like mostly, people think an MMA gym is full of fighters. My gym is probably 85% people that just want to learn the sport and have fun and get fit in a different way instead of doing the gym, and then 15% of it is fighters. Do you know what I mean? So it's a very small percentage. So that's my main job. Then I have an equipment company.
What made you set that up?
To be honest, the main reason I set up the equipment company was because when I got that injury, when I realised I had the damage on the head, I wanted to start creating equipment, safer equipment for MMA. I was at the time I was in my gaff designing headgear for MMA. I still haven't done the headgear at the moment, because designing a headgear is a lot more expensive than designing the glove and stuff like that. So Tommy Egan introduced me to a friend of his in Boston, Ralph Montez, and he was designing headgear for the Navy SEALs in America, and we got on the call, and I was like, I want to design equipment. You're the designer. I want to design blah blah blah. I want to do combat sports equipment. You want to do it. Let's work together. And we designed. Our first product was boxing gloves, sparring gloves, S1 sparring gloves. We've got patents on the glove, so our lace converter system is patented, so it's an international patent, so it's nobody can copy it, although a couple of companies have tried to copy it upwards. And then we've got a patent on our hand wraps, our hybrid hand wraps and stuff like that. We are designing an MMA glove at the moment, and we'll have some intellectual property on the gloves. But any of the equipment that we want to put out, it needs to be safer than what's currently on the market, and it needs to be more innovative. We don't want to just white label shite, you know what I mean, and just copy everyone else. Anything we do will be better than what's on the market. Yeah. So that's Shadow Fight Goods. So that's me. Company based out of Boston, and then I have a college MMA league in America as well called Nuka MMA. So we get colleges to compete against each other in amateur MMA. So it's pretty.
That'd be classed as white collar.
No, it wouldn't be white collar. It would be because the kids are good. They're good. So if you watch any of the college sports in the US, like if you watch college football, we did 2 college teams were over in the Aviva there.
A few weeks back.
A while ago when they sold it out. College sports in America it's huge, if not more popular than the NFL. So it's huge. The colleges are huge. So what we do is we pit colleges against each other. We've done a couple of events. I think we've done 4 events only. We set it up in COVID. COVID hit. The colleges closed down. It was a bleeding disaster. And then we set back up last year. We've done 3. I think we've done 3 events so far. And we'll probably do an event towards the end of the year. But I'm juggling a million different things. So we'll do that. And then I'm helping out with a few other things. The pipeline. So busy, but I'm doing stuff that I enjoy doing. So.
Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years? Jesus, I don't know. I don't know. I say retired, but I do say at 45 I want to be capable of retiring. But retiring from what, I don't know. I'll be doing something. Yeah. I have a couple of guys that I would like to get to the UFC in the gym. I want to help them get to the UFC. A couple of guys on the doorstep. So that's part of the goal. I want to design the new MMA glove. I want to design the amateur glove, and I want to design an MMA glove for the UFC, proper MMA glove. They done a glove deal with a company there recently, and it lasted 6 months because the glove was terrible. I think myself and Raf can design a. We can design. We have the design for the glove. We just need to fund the glove. So we're going to do it.
Bring it to reality.
Yeah, we just need to. We need to do around the funding to get the glove, the MMA glove, designed and into manufacture. And then I want to see Nuka MMA become the second biggest league to the UFC. You can't compete with the UFC. It's too big. The brand is too big. But
some people even call. Sorry for cutting across.
Yeah.
Some people even refer to MMA as the UFC.
If you do UFC,
realises that it's different. Like,
it's
that's like calling football the Premier League. Like,
you do Premier League,
yeah. That's what people say.
But you can't compete with the UFC on the pro level. But what we envision at Nuka is if we can get the college MMA league to look like what all the other college leagues look like in the US, then it will be astronomical. It'll be worth a fucking fortune. Do you know what I mean? And then who knows what else? I don't know what I'll be doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Enjoy some time with my kids and my wife, and help them achieve their goals. That's it.
One last thing for you. Do you have a question for the next guest?
Alright, question for the next guest. I don't, but
Can be anything.
what a lot of numbers. Question for the next guest, right? Let me think of a good one. I don't want to go with the obvious ones. Like what? Let me think. Who was the biggest influence in their life? Yeah, who had the biggest impact on their life? You know.
That's a good one.
Yeah. You'll have to let me know what they say. Yeah. You'll have to get back to me. Yeah.
You have to listen in.
Yeah. Well, can you tell me who it is now?
Not
yet.
No, this
Let me
after you.
Yeah.
Right, perfect.
Right.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it,
Episode
guys. Thank you.
37
No
wrapped up.
bother.